Life is about A and B choices when it comes down to making critical decisions. The Chiefs face that in this upcoming draft and the rest of the offseason. We're going to get through the picky ones today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. It's another Friday. We're getting closer to the draft, and that means closer to next season. So I hope that you're ready to enjoy it. We have a lot coming for you today. We are brought to you by Ultimate GM. It is the best game if you have ever dreamed about being a GM in this league and control your own franchise. Get in there right now. Go to ultimate-gm.com and look for, you can look at any of the app stores and use our code Locked On. You get 100% boost there, and you can run your franchise today. This is going to be a lot of fun. We appreciate you making your first Friday listen, Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day and for free. If you would make another Locked On show your next listen, maybe the draft show, maybe the scouting show, maybe one of the other teams that you're really worried about. I know there's some folks out there. Let's see where the Bengals have gone this offseason. That's a good one. Lot to cover here. I want to give you guys a code. It is Matrix, LOC. You use that at rogueapc.com, and you're going to get a nice discount off of the RAPC 2023 Athletic Matrix NFL Draft Guide with all my metrics, all the athleticism, and all my film reviews, mine and the rest of my team over there. You can get it for a discount right now at rogueapc.com and use that code Matrix LOC. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics, as well as NFL 33 and RGR Football.
And I'm Chris Clark. Thank you all for listening. We do appreciate it. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this. This is the next to last Friday before the actual NFL draft.
Woo.
Hard to believe it is almost here. Really looking forward to that. And as Ryan said, we are here 5 days a week, your team every day. We do appreciate those everydayers that listen to us as well.
Yes. Thank you. Because every day there's a little bit different aspect you can take on it. Today, since it's a Friday show, it really just comes down to what you want. Right. And that happens in the draft room. It happens in the front office all the time. It's a battle back and forth. I stomp the table for the guys they want. They go about making plans. And so we'll just A/B some of the big decisions that have to go on here. I don't know where you want to start. Do you have a feel for what your biggest topic is?
I do have a feeling you're not going to like this one. Chris Jones, new contract, $30 million a year plus.
Oh, you had to put the over-under at 30.
Yep.
Good God. Because at 25, I think you do it. I don't think that's even a question. 30 becomes a little bit more hesitation, right? You got to work that out. Because on the plus side,
I knew there was going to be hesitation there.
Right? I'm cheap. Because on the plus side, you have an elite player, and on the bottom side, he's what is he, over 30 yet? Or he's dang close?
He's dang close. He's not over 30 yet, but he's dang close.
Whew, that's a tough one. Where do you stand?
Chris Jones is 29 right now. He will be 30, I think, sometime this next year. Obviously, I'm not sure if it's before the season or after. Personally, I think that if you look at what he has done for Kansas City the past couple of years, the thing I do think is interesting, his cap number has basically been $30 million almost for the past 2 years. Mm-hmm. So this year it's 28.2. Well, I guess 28.2. So pretty close to 30. The year before it was almost 29.5. That was his cap number, not what he was actually making. But that's because they adjusted his salary and moved some of it back. So they did that to themselves. So to me, it's a matter of, do you believe you can get him for another 2 or 3 years to play at an elite level? Because I think you're going to be looking at another 3 or 4 year contract, and you're going to have to pay a lot of it up front.
I think you do. Honestly, the more I think about just sitting here, I'm still on the A side of that. I'm still giving him what he needs to be here, maybe with an out after year 2 or year 3, just in case that cliff comes up on him quicker than I think. But the B of it is that you don't have any pass rush whatsoever that is proven. George Karlaftis had an interesting rookie year, and I do think he showed some promise. But that's not anything you can go to the bank on, in my opinion. So that is the B situation. That is glum and terrible and looks like a winter storm watch. So I'm paying Chris Jones.
I told you were going to like this one. It's the biggest decision they have to make right now. I mean, that is quite literally the biggest decision they have to make. They have to figure out, obviously the draft is coming up. Chris Jones isn't going to get a deal before the NFL draft. Yes, I'm trying to pull your magic here. But I do think that this is the biggest deal that they got to get figured out right now.
I agree. And quite frankly, there was a report from Albert Breer yesterday that discussions about this extension have been tabled until after the draft. Okay, I can live with that. I think normally I would tell you that what happens in the draft is as a determining factor. This is Chris Jones. I don't care who they get. If Jalen Carter falls to them and they bring him in, this doesn't change anything for Chris Jones as far as I'm concerned. And maybe Brett Veach gets a little bit less spendy, but for me, I want Chris Jones under contract to teach Jalen Carter. Like, I could see that. There are similarities in those guys. Not only the dominant, they take some plays off, and you have to grow out of that, and you have to find that fire. And I think that's something that Chris Jones can give to anybody that comes in.
Interesting that you say that, because isn't that what we said about Chris Jones early in his career?
Absolutely. That's why I'm drawing the distinction. It was what I said in his draft eval as well. Like, where does he go sometimes, right? And now we see, even we said that early in his career, you're right. But now it's elevated to the level that you can see that path forward. And I think that's important, even if they were to get some kind of phenom like Carter.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that, obviously I don't think that they're getting Jalen Carter. I don't think he gets out of the top 10. But I do think that this is their biggest decision, and I do agree with you. I think that this is a decision that they got to get done, and they got to get him extended. I don't think it's going to come in at $30 million a year, but if it does, I think we're both on the A side of that.
If it does, is Tyreek Hill just all kinds of pissed off?
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean,
the difference is wide receiver isn't necessarily as valuable as interior pass rush, especially with Mahomes.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with you. I think there are people in the league who would.
Oh, I'm sure they would, but especially with Mahomes. Look at what Mahomes was able to do last year without a legitimate number one wide receiver. The offense was better last year than it was the year before. And so I think that your wide receiver is in a position that they're going to pay a lot of money to, unless they find somebody that's just as perfect. But that's something that's going to be a couple of years down the road, probably after Kelsey is gone, which I'm saying several years down the road. So just to be clear there.
So to be clear also, you would do this at $30 million per annum.
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
I think for 2 or 3 years, if you're signing him to a 4-year deal, you still get to $30 million a year. And if that's the number he wants, you could make the 4th year a huge number, and he's going to probably understand he's not going to get that. But he wants to be here. That's why I don't think it's going to get to $30 million. Mm-hmm. But I would still do it. Yes.
Agreed. That's the first big domino to fall. There are other decisions, not just in the draft, but in this longer plan that we discussed yesterday. If you missed yesterday's show, go back and check that one out, because we were really discussing about what the evolution of this franchise is, not just this draft or this year or the last couple. So we'll do that. But there are other dominoes that will follow Chris Jones' decision, whether it's now or whether it's June. We'll get into that. And the next one is probably L'Jarius Sneed. We'll talk about him right after this.
And I want to tell you about our friends over at Ultimate Football GM. I really have enjoyed this game. I love playing it. I have it on my phone. It is phenomenal. Today is brought to you by Ultimate Football GM. You've heard us talk about this mobile game, and if you would like to try to be a GM, you want to have these kind of decisions that Ryan and I are talking about right now, go try this game out. It is fantastic. I absolutely love playing it. Won a Super Bowl a couple of times. Did very well. You play up to 25 seasons. So there's a lot of time to be able to get into the knack of how to play, and you can do better and better, and you compete against other players, which is cool as well. With Ultimate Football GM, you're responsible for controlling the destiny of your franchise by hiring the right coaches and coordinators, managing all the finances, and negotiating player salaries and terms, navigating your franchise through free agency, the draft, injuries, player personnel issues, and all the ups and downs of the season. All this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Football GM is completely free and playable offline, play on the go as you want and when you want to. Locked On Chiefs listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo code Locked On in all caps in the game store. That's Locked On in all caps. So make sure to check it out today. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up on the app stores. That's ultimate-gm.com. Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today.
And I know you everydayers are going to get into playing that game, because once you start, it is something else you can do every day. You'll get a lot done there. Domino number one is Chris Jones. I think we agree on that. But where do you go from there? Does it become about trying to find the best fit in the draft. That's certainly an area of concern. We're going to talk about draft selections and choices here later in the show. But for me, as somebody, and I did just have a nice conversation with Cody Alexander. You guys will see part of that coming up here in the next couple of weeks. It is about the defensive base. What has to happen in order to keep that up? It doesn't have to be, like we talked about yesterday, elite level, top 10, but it does have to be good enough. It does have to be 20-ish plus in order to support Mahomes and the offense and doing what they need to do to win championships. So is L'Jarius Sneed enough of a cornerstone that you have to go out and extend him at, 16-ish a year, possibly, maybe a touch more? I don't know.
If you think you're getting L'Jarius Sneed for 16 a year, I think you're foolish personally.
Okay.
I think that he's probably going to get closer to 18, 19, 20 million a year. Unfortunately, that is the going rate for CBs. Maybe I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong, but I don't think that you can extend him if you start getting to that $20 million range. I think that is going to be prohibitive for this team.
Okay, so that's option A, is to extend. What's option B look like?
Option B could be looking at drafting a CB in this draft and trying to get somebody that can come in and replace him after this season. Yeah, you drafted 3 guys that played really well last year. I don't know that you feel like any 3 of them can step into Sneed's shoes this next year, although Trent McDuffie looked like he is going to be a fantastic player for years to come. So maybe that is something you want there. But you still need 4 really good corners. That's just the reality in the NFL. The more good corners you can have, the better. And while it's not one of the hugest needs, it's one of those needs that maybe they're in a situation where it's going to be somebody that drops because of all the other positions that seem to be going in this draft.
Mm-hmm. It is a crafty selection because, as you say, you have to prepare for the future and build up that entire unit. That, I think, will be very telling. I'm leaning, I will sign L'Jarius Sneed, and I'll make that work. I got to have multiple pillars on this defense, and I think he can be one. That's my decision.
I agree that they need multiple pillars, but I don't think Sneed's the second guy.
Okay. Do you have someone in mind, or you mean you're searching for one?
No, I think Bolton's their second guy.
Okay.
I think he's their second pillar. I think that he is the leader of this defense, and they intend to keep him for a long term. I think that what he has shown so far, I'm not going to say that necessarily he can be a pro or an all-pro, but I do think that he has a Pro Bowl in his future very soon.
Mm-hmm.
And potentially all-pro in the future if he continues to improve, because he really took a big jump from where he started 2 years ago to where he is right now.
Yes, very much so. And I think we get into a discussion of the ceiling now with him. But that is a discussion for another year because he still has time on his contract. So when you're talking about the 2 major extensions right now, I think you could do the Joe Thuney extension because that would get you some space. We've talked about that. We covered that this week as well. Is there anyone else that you think of the younger generation that it needs to be extended now? And I'm talking before next offseason.
If they're going to extend Willie Gay, they need to do it now. But I don't know that they're going to extend him. I think that it's one thing that I think Veach is going to continue to look at going forward is I think that if you're going to extend somebody, they're going to do it the year before the contract's up. Mm-hmm. So I think that if you're going to extend Willie Gay, you probably need to do that now. I understand you still got, Creed and Trey coming next year. You've got some other things coming in the years down the road. There's going to be a lot of questions that Kansas City's going to have to answer, and they're going to have a lot of money that they're going to have to be doling out. So the cheaper you can get players, the better before the cap jumps.
Yeah, that's very fair. And the B side is that you let Willie play out this contract, and then you try to bring him back. Maybe he tries to go elsewhere, and you see what you get there. In the end, that might lower the value of the contract.
And I want to be clear on this. I'm not saying Willie Gay is the same as Tremaine Edmonds or Devin White or any of those guys, but they're looking at $18 to $20 million a year. So that's the top of the linebacker market right now. So again, I'm not saying he's those players, but them asking for that kind of money and getting that kind of money is going to push the entire market up. So that's the question as to what Willie Gay is going to cost.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the longer you wait, the more that goes up. Sorry.
And that's dollars you can't spend elsewhere. You can't continue to investigate talent. Is there some linebacker depth in this draft? Not really. You could see it maybe next season. We'll see if they get there. So that becomes the question as well. But there are bigger questions. What do you do in this draft? Where are you making your decision points? We're going to get to those, the ABs, right after this. So here's where it comes down to it. We know that they have areas of need. We've identified them. We've talked about them ad nauseum. We are to this point. Is it A or B, sell out for a first-round talent at wide receiver, or take one of the others, A or B?
I personally want A.
Yeah.
But I am not going to be shocked if they go B.
A is going to require a trade up, I'm pretty sure. That's going to be significant.
Oh, absolutely.
Whereas B, I think you can get either tackle or edge talent at that spot or a minimal move up. And I think that's probably the most likely. And that's probably what I personally am trying to do because I like the cluster of guys at wide receiver in the second round. So I think there'll be opportunities there. What's the next big question in the draft for you?
The next big question, and really this is something we've already talked about a lot, but the biggest question to me that still is remaining out there is how much is reality of left tackle Jawan Taylor? Is that real? And we're not going to know that until after the draft, because if they draft somebody that can step in the first round and play that position, I don't think that he's ever going to play left tackle for Kansas City. And I just wonder how much that's real. But to me, that's an A or B type situation. Do you want him to be your left tackle? A, yes. B, no.
Yeah, that's a fair point as well. I think it's insurance myself. I think you want him to stay on the right. I think you want to look for a left tackle. We've talked about the trade up there. If there isn't a left in the first, there will be a couple in the second, maybe even close to the third, that have some of the attributes that you want. There's going to be a guy on day 3 that has the attributes that they want. But I think that, again, it has to be, in order to maximize Juwan, it is to go get a left tackle at the top and make that work. Because then it doesn't matter what you're paying for him, because his partner, his bookend, is evening out that salary.
That's true. The problem with getting a guy in the lower rounds, at least in my opinion, is that unless he's a guy that you think can come in and start or just blows everybody away and is able to start year one, do you really want to move Juwan for 1 year or 2 years and then move him back?
No.
Yeah.
I agree with you completely. Blake Freeland's going to be there on day 2. Jalen Duncan just came in for a visit in Kansas City. He'll be there on day 3 because he's a great athlete. He doesn't know what he's doing in terms of pass blocking. So he's a 2-year project probably.
Yeah, and that's my point is unless you're going to go get a guy that they think can start immediately, Taylor's going to probably be your left tackle for the next 4 years.
Very much so. And then it comes to the big question of, is it a weapon on offense? Is it multiple weapons? Just finished watching Jonathan Mingo for the first time in this draft process because I don't do the skill positions for the draft guy. Dan handles that, and then I come back around. A guy that'll be there on day 2 that I think you could fill in. A.T. Perry will be there on day 2 that you could fill it in. Tillman will be there on day 2. You could probably get any of those guys at 63. That should be a pretty sound maneuver. Is that worth it? Is it for you? Is it quantity over quality? Is quantity A or is quality B? Which do you take?
I want to preface this answer with this thought process. Look at what they've done so far. Yes, they need a defensive tackle. Yes, they need a defensive end. But linebacker's pretty much shored up. Yeah, you could look for the future. Corner's pretty much shored up. Safety is, you're not going to go early at safety. So to me, I think that if you're looking at a situation where wide receiver is something that you could double dip in, and even if you go first round at wide receiver, I wouldn't be shocked if they take another wide receiver later in the draft.
Yeah.
Because they need people there. And, like I said before, we don't know what's going on with Justin Ross or John Ross or anybody else that they have that's doing things with Patrick Mahomes in Texas right now. So to me, I say give him multiple weapons, because the one thing that you want to continue to do is put players around him that he can grow with.
I can see where you're coming from, and I hope that Smith-Marsette and Justin Ross work out. The fact that Justin Ross is able to get down there and work out right now with Patrick, I think that goes a long way because he got limited reps with him. I think that's important. And I'm pulling for Justin Ross. The fact that until a couple of weeks ago, we hadn't seen much of him, I was concerned. Just being able to see him move and run routes, I don't care that it's on air. That's a significant uptick in my optimism for what Justin Ross can be for this team. So for me, I want to get the guy that is the best fit. And I can go without the volume because I think they've done their due diligence and they have guys they feel can contribute to the offense if Ross can stay healthy in particular. And Smith-Marset, I think, is easily in there. And then Richie. So, like, I think there's enough slots there behind the top three that I need one guy that can make a big difference. I'm going to go B and take that.
Doesn't shock me that you're going that direction, but I just look at giving Mahomes better weapons. And to me, that's always going to be what I think this team is going to want to do. Because as this team, as he goes, this team goes. And the better weapons you give him, the more ability to get separation at times is going to pay off in the long run for Kansas City regardless.
Yes, as he goes, we all go. And that's where it is. What do you guys want to see? A or B, any of our questions in the comments here on YouTube or in the reviews on Spotify or Apple, we would love to know your opinion. Hit us at Locked On Chiefs on Twitter. We are extremely excited about this draft, and we're getting closer. Make sure you grab the draft guide. It's over at rogueapc.com. Use that code MatrixLOC. Get yourself that discount. A lot of folks been purchasing the guide in the last few days, not using the code. I appreciate the support, but use the code. That's what it's for. Get yourself a discount. I really appreciate all the support there. We're going to have more on it as we get closer. Have some interesting guests coming up. We're going to have some content you're going to dig. Matt Derrick will be back next week. We're getting ever closer. So enjoy your weekend. We will be back for mock draft Monday next week. I hope that you enjoy that. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you then.